Good morning. This is Inga Cotton. I'm the founder and executive director of San Antonio Charter Moms, and it's going to be just me this morning on Charter Moms Chats. We had a guest plan, but at the last minute it didn't work out. But that is okay because I thought I will use this opportunity to give you an update on uh, what kind of homeschool hacks my family is using as we keep our kids learning from home. It really is more like homeschooling nowadays instead of just doing the remote education through our kids' school. Although I'm very grateful for the packets and for the hard work that the teachers did. Um, I feel like we have more flexibility, more control over what activities our kids are doing now. So, and I just kind of want to catch up on kind of what's been happening in the Charter Moms group and on the page and stuff like that. Um, so, like, I mean, if you've been following the news, you've been seeing that there are protests and demonstrations happening in San Antonio because people are showing solidarity, demanding better treatment for Black people from law enforcement. And so some of my friends have been going with their families to the protests. And what I've heard is that they feel comfortable doing that. Now, my family, we are still avoiding crowds. We even with masks. Now, so it's basically it's a personal judgment. Whether you feel comfortable being around other people like that. My family, we're still staying home for the most part. But I guess if you're wondering, it does seem like so far the protests have been in the daytime have been peaceful. And I guess my takeaway, I posted on the page that on behalf of San Antonio Charter Moms that you know we stand as allies and co-conspirators for Black Americans, that and the way that we want to take action on that is through education. That we can do it as a family. We can, like, I talked to my kids this weekend about race. Like, we were out on a shopping trip, and we saw a store with boarded up windows, and that was my kids were surprised to see that, and that was a jumping off point to explain why these demonstrations are happening, why this is an important moment, why change needs to happen. And we shared some resources in the group, encouraging families to have conversations with your kids about race. If you don't talk about it, then you don't know what influences they're having. It sends a message that it's either not worth talking about or it's too uncomfortable to talk about. But kids, they'll notice that something's going on, and they're going to wonder. So you want to keep it age appropriate. You don't want to stress them out, but it is a difficult topic, and we've got to talk about it. So I had a conversation with my kids over the weekend, and I encourage you to keep it's something. It's not just a one and done. It's something that you have to keep talking about, because it's their questions are different at different ages. Their life experiences are different at different ages. And the world changes. I mean, we're going through a moment now where I hope that we've reached some kind of critical mass or awareness that that these problems are real. Like, I remember back when I was, right out of law school. This is back in 99, 2000, and I was hanging out with fellow federal law clerks in Colorado. And one of my colleagues, her boyfriend is African American, and he was talking about, like, as a law student, like driving through rural Virginia. And he went in detail about his encounters with police and how he would try to stay safe and how he always felt at risk. And I just, when you hear it from somebody like that, there's no denying it, right? This happens. And you can't just be like, oh, everything's fine. No, everything's not fine. It's been a problem for a long time. It's still a problem. There are Black professionals in our community, like, so Revard Report talked to several, including the regional superintendent for KIP. He tells a really harrowing story about getting arrested for absolutely no good reason, and the trauma that he went through. And it's appalling, and it needs to stop. So I just want to share a comment here. April is one of our great allies, and really a sounding board, someone that I lean on for leadership and good judgment. So thank you, April. It's something I couldn't just stay silent about this on the SA Charter Moms page and in the group. I know things have been kind of tense in the group. I mean, education is a difficult topic, but talking about race as well. you know, our team is just, we go back to our first principles. We go back to, you know, the purpose of the group. So we're trying to, um, it's like we've been sharing in the group, like when as schools make statements about, you know, statements of solidarity, or, you know, statements about their commitment to equity, we share those in the group because it's a way, you know, it gives you information about a school culture, right? So what do they say in a moment like this, and how do they address their community? um, you know, so that's why we keep sharing, you know, especially when I, like, Compass Rose was one of the first schools to speak up on this, and they showed real leadership on that. So I want to shout out to Compass Rose for, um, you know, they've really stepped up. But a lot of schools like Great Hearts and KIP, and I mean, for my son, many schools have stepped up and made statements, and so we share that in the group. So one of the key principles in our group is basically, like, we're all parents trying to do our best. We're trying to get our kids a good education, because really one of the essential tools of liberation is making sure that your kids, all kids, kids of all colors, especially Black kids, because they've gotten the worst treatment over the years in the United States, that all kids are equipped to lead choice-filled lives, right? That they have reading and math skills, and that there are, I mean, we have to be aware that there are achievement gaps, that Latino kids and Black kids are um, behind on reading and math. It's not their fault. The systems have failed them, and that's something that we have to work on every day, right? So that's part of our mission in the group, is advocating for high quality education for all children, and it's in our mission statement. It's in our values. Um, you know, but so another aspect too is that, like, we're all parents trying to do our best, and we don't trash other people's choices about their kids, right? So if you don't like how another school is handling this situation, whether you think that they've gone too far to the right or too far to the left, um, you know, it's information. If you don't like how that school is handling it, don't send your kids there. But don't trash another parent because they choose to send their kids there. Um, you know, maybe they're trying to liberate themselves by getting their kids a good education. Um, you know, and you know, a lot of schools still have some growth to do as far as, you know, how they address equity in their school culture, how they communicate about race and equity. Um, you know, there's just a lot of work to do all around. So um, we're going to stick to our mission of trying to keep people informed. We're going to keep sharing stuff in the group. If people post stuff or comment stuff that violates group guidelines, we're going to delete it, because we want the group to be a safe space. Um, you know, we're not going to delete everything, right? But I mean, we want to keep the conversation going, but we also want people to not feel attacked. So it's a tricky line. We're doing our best. Oh, I want to share. Okay, April's got something to share. Okay, she's talking about race with her kids. Um, we began these conversations when her kids were 8 and 11. Talked about Emmett Till. Yeah, important for all children to learn and understand Black history and institutional racism. Yeah, I remember talking to my kids about Emmett Till. It was we were visiting our friends in Chicago, and we went to the DuSable Museum of African American History, and they have, so in the exhibit, I mean, it's very graphic, but they show the, I mean, it was an open casket funeral, and Ebony published the pictures. And that was a turning point in how people across the United States looked at how Blacks are being treated, especially in the South, as far as like beatings and lynchings. And my kids saw the picture of Emmett Till in the museum, and they were just shocked. And so we had a conversation about it, and um, you know, they need to know that that's real, and they need to know that the effects of that are still ongoing. That still, you know, Black Americans don't feel safe, and that's not okay. Um, so April, thank you for sharing about that. I mean, those pictures are graphic. So I mean, you know, before you go googling around, you know, kind of brace yourself. But I mean, it's, yeah, and I have on the SHRMM site, we have, you know, my account of, you know, taking my kids to that museum. I think we sometimes reshare that post during Black History Month, but really, I mean, all year we need to be teaching about Black history. We need to be aware of it. And there's an important date coming up this month, right? Juneteenth. So that's another opportunity to, you know, to talk about Black history, and talk about equity. So Tracy says, "Thank you, Tracy." You know, I'm trying. And I'm grateful for that we have, people who are part of the essay turnarounds community who I can lean on, people of color, who can, help try to, help. It's not their job to educate me, but I'm grateful for whatever help they can offer, because it's a journey to keep learning. Um, yeah, so yeah, in the group, so like last week we posted, um, a message of solidarity, all over the weekend. On Saturday, I posted some links, resources about talking to your kids about race. I think April's comment is a good one. Um, and then yesterday, I published a post on the page in the group just saying, if you want to take action, please register to vote. Get your friends to register to vote. Advocate for access to voting rights, because that's been a battleground for a long time, right? There were for many years, Black Americans were deprived of the right to vote, and it's still a challenge, making sure that everyone has access to voting. And it's an issue right now because I don't like the idea of, I mean, I try to go to early voting when there's no line, but I'm anxious about voting. And will they be practicing social distancing? Will people be wearing masks? Will they disinfect the voting machines? I mean, what's that going to look like? So it's still a live issue. Just keep in mind that June 15th is the deadline to register to vote in the runoff primary. The runoff primary is July 14th, but there will be early voting starting at the end of June. So um, and you can download the form online. There's some links on the page, like from the Secretary of State's office. There's information at the Bear County Elections Department, and then also Move Texas is a nonprofit that helps people get registered to vote and advocates for voting rights. So those are some links that we shared on the page. So it may feel like voting is too slow or that's not getting the job done. So go ahead, if you feel comfortable being in crowds, go ahead, go protest, go make your voice heard, do what you got to do. But I think voting is just a really fundamental thing, that we can all do. We can encourage people to do, and get informed. So yeah, this is something that's going to be ongoing. Oh, let's see. Tracy has, yeah, that's a really good point, Tracy. Voter turnout tends to be really low, and especially in local elections. But those things really matter. Um, I mean, even things like school boards, yeah, it matters. And so, take the time, please register to vote. Help your friends get registered to vote. If you have relatives who are over 65, you can help them apply for a mail-in ballot. That way, they'll be able to vote safely without being having to wait in line or worry about getting exposed to coronavirus. I guess what I promised that this video would be about was like sort of how our homeschooling is doing. So I want to cover that too. It seems like everything we do, has to be in this awareness, in this context that, this is a really serious moment in history, and that there seems to be an awakening and hopefully a turning point, that will lead to, more safety and more freedom for Black Americans. So talking about homeschool seems kind of small compared to that, but we'll go ahead. This is what we've been doing. Let's see. So last week there was no packets, no distance learning, not even packets we didn't have to turn in. It was we were on our own. So the systems that we've set up, I set up Google Classroom. You can just set it up as like if you just have a Google account, you don't have to be necessarily part of a school, which is I didn't really know that before until I started kind of experimenting with it. And the fact that my kids already were using it as part of their distance learning stuff meant that they had some familiarity with it. So last week, the things we set up were basically PE and typing and reading. And so basically, I'm not really using the features of Google Classroom. I'm not setting up like quizzes or I'm basically using it as like a glorified checklist or to-do list, but it's to remind them like, on these days, we get out the yoga mats and do our PE indoors. And then on these other days, we go for a walk in the neighborhood, that they're supposed to spend a certain amount of time typing and, to remind them that there's like milestones like beginner, intermediate, advanced, like that they need to be working towards those milestones in the typing program. So they're using typing.com, and that's something that we're going to be talking about on the blog as part of the um, summer experiences posts that we're sharing this month. Um, and then as far as reading, I'm kind of leaving it up to them to find the books that they like. So my daughter, who's in fourth grade, she's been reading the Ramona books by Beverly Cleary, and my son has as a gift he got a set of encyclopedias, and he has those in his room. So he's been kind of browsing the encyclopedias, and he's always been kind of a nonfiction guy. So so that's what makes him happy. Um, and I guess I've talked about like that we're reading World War Z as a family. Like we'll read a small section of it and then have a discussion about it. And so we've been doing that kind of around snack time so that we have time in the evening to watch movies. And movies, that was a topic that we covered last week when we talked to Nathan Cohn. He's the Cinema Tuesday guy for Texas Public Radio. So I'm hoping, I guess my son's been picking a lot of sci-fi movies, and those are a lot of fun, but I'm hoping we can mix in some classic movies too, sort of part of the film studies education for the summer. So the things that we're trying to add this week, so as far as like morning activities, we're trying to add that. Okay, so I'm kind of relying on like sort of like free online resources to fill stuff in. So we're going to experiment with some free online math stuff and some free online foreign language stuff. And then as far as Google Classroom, again, it's kind of like a checklist, like to remind them to work on something for a certain amount of time and to keep making progress. And then my daughter is interested in cooking, so that's something she's going to work on in the afternoons. And then my son says he's still interested in coding, although we kind of paused our membership at the in-person coding classes that they were doing because our family still feels safer at home. So, but not judging. A lot of places have instituted good procedures and they're spreading people out and sanitizing. So I just feel like we just don't have enough information yet. So so we're going to try to figure out what activities we can do from home. So we're still yeah, and I want to make sure the kids like play in the backyard in the afternoon because there's still, our options are a little limited about places we can go, and we feel safer at home. So yeah, and then afternoons, that's often when my kids do like video chats or play online video games with their friends after they've gotten their other homeschool stuff done. And they have a checklist of some chores that they're supposed to do every day. So that's kind of how we're structuring. I mean, I'm trying to get these like apps and logins and stuff like that set up for them. So it's a little bit of work every day getting try to not overwhelm them with too much new stuff. So, but yeah, I will report back on how this goes. I'd say the typing we're very happy with typing.com. We're gonna try like the math and the foreign language this week. That's kind of new. I'm looking forward to the library reopening, San Antonio Public Library, so we can put some books on hold and check out some books in a couple weeks. Um, um, yeah, so it's just a matter. It does take a little bit of time for me every weekend. I sort of I guess I grade the work that they've turned in. It's really just did they do it or not, and then like they need to check in, like turn in. It's like, yes, I did PE. Yes, I read for 30 minutes. And then I kind of grade them and oh yeah, yeah. And Tracy, we'll have more information, but yeah, typing.com has worked well for us. I mean, I know there's other things we've looked at, and that'll be on the blog later when I get that post put together. But this is a good time, while we're home, to think about those skills that it just takes time to chip away at. Like you can't learn typing in a day. You have to work on it for like if you do it a little bit every day, it builds up, and then it's a skill they'll have for a long time. So, and that's kind of how we're looking at like reading. It's enjoyable. I talk to my kids about like how do they feel when they spend a lot of time on video games or YouTube versus if they spend time like completing a coding challenge or reading a book or but especially like my daughter said, the feeling she gets from doing cooking is like she feels proud of herself. And this kind of goes back to our conversation on Friday with Teresa Lawrence talking about motivation, that having those feelings of competency and you feel proud of yourself. It's a different feeling. Like if you just spend time amusing yourself and just kind of passing the time, that you can get kind of you feel kind of sleepy or bored or kind of disconnected. But if you do something that's a little bit more of a challenge, but you feel proud for accomplishing it, for navigating those uncertainties, like a recipe you've never done before, or solving a coding challenge that's new, you feel good about yourself. And that in a time when a lot of our options are closed off, I think trying to get ourselves in that zone of like of flow and like feeling proud of our work and feeling confident. I think it's good for adults. I think it's good for kids too. So, um, oh yeah, Tracy said typing is a goal for Evan. When I share the post about typing, I guess one thing that we found really helpful is covering the keyboard. So there is a product you can get called Speedskin that it's like an orange rubbery kind of cover that fits over the keys. But another way to do it is to put little stickers or pieces of masking tape or something over the letters on the keys, because that really encourages them to not peek at the keyboard. Like they have to just look at the screen and really touch type that way. So Tracy, that would be my other suggestion, is like either get a cover for the keys, like a specially designed keyboard cover, or find like put little pieces of tape or masking tape or stickers over the letters, because then they really do have to learn that way. So yeah, I'd say find your talk to your kids about their goals. Think about things you learned as a kid. Talk to them about when do they feel happy, when do they feel proud about themselves, and try to consciously build those things into your life. But the reason why I'm kind of trying to automate things with these like checklists and things in Google Classroom that my kids can look into, is to try to give them some uh, well, partly it's to give them some control over their lives, because a lot of things are kind of closed off to them right now. But also it's to it's to buy me some time so that I can get my work done, because I'm still a working mom, and I have gosh we've gotten such amazing drafts from our contributors, like the folks that we interviewed on Charter Moms Chats last week, and like for the rest of this week we have some really wonderful interviews lined up, and you guys are gonna love it. So like please keep checking back at 9 a.m. We have and we're gonna start really hyping the summer experiences post. So I hope that it gives you inspiration about ways to keep learning with your kids. And anyway, just today was like strategies about how we're staying organized, but it doesn't have to be Google Classroom. And there's other learning management systems, but really you could do it with like a bullet journal, or um, a whiteboard, or I mean my kids have like a daily list of chores, and it's in a page protector, and they can mark it off with a dry erase marker, and then wipe it off at the end of the day. Or if you have a laminator, first of all, I'm jealous. One of these days I just want to buy myself a laminator, but but you can. Anyway, there's lots of solutions. Oh, April's got a suggestion. Let's see. Oh, if you have newspaper or magazine subscription, encourage kids to select an article each day to research and summarize. Have follow-up discussions about their research, thoughts, and feelings about current events. April, that is a fantastic idea. I think yeah, yeah. I mean, to some extent, we do this at dinner table conversation, but I think that there are what I'm noticing is that there are times when like my husband and I, because we've both been on Twitter, and it's almost like we're talking in code, because we've each read the same article, and but the important thing is to get your kids involved and explain stuff to them and put things in context. And to some extent, when in my family, when we do our around afternoon snack time and we read a section from World War Z, um, that's we really take the time to like go back and explain, okay, this is what the author is getting at, right? So like the last segment we read, it had to do with nuclear tensions between India and Pakistan, and how in a crisis things went haywire, and kind of the interplay between use of conventional warfare and nuclear warfare versus diplomacy, right? I mean, that these are big ideas, but talking it through with kids, it helps give them a more realistic assessment of what's going on in the world, right? And we can't protect them from all this stuff forever, right? So, childhood and adolescence is an opportunity for us to share our values with our kids and to talk things through with them and help them help shape their understanding of the world and find ways to, you know, I feel like I keep breaking the news to them about how messed up the world is, but I nevertheless remain an optimist. I keep working to try to make the world better and to share good ideas with people. And I hope some of that rubs off on them, right? That we can be aware of all the challenges that are happening in the world, and yet we can retain our optimism and keep working hard to make things better. So I guess on that note, we'll see what happens in the group today. Hopefully, I'll try to keep sharing, and members can keep sharing ideas about. I mean, April, that was an excellent suggestion. But like, talk about current events with your kids. If you feel comfortable doing so, take them to one of the demonstrations that are happening. I think it's like 3 p.m. daily downtown. There's some of it's happening in different neighborhoods. Like there was one in our neighborhood over the weekend. Just these are. It feels like there's just layer after layer of unusual and profound changes happening right now. So we can try to embrace it and try to make it a better world. So on that note, I will sign off. We'll keep talking about summer activities. Keep an eye on the event and the page, and we'll keep sharing. Okay.